Hi there, everyone, and we're back again with another Up the Dale podcast. And we're well and truly underway after a weekend of much better weather, and cricket is well and truly on the agenda. Again, we've got our usual fare of some news from the club, reviews of last week's matches. In fact, we've got 2 weeks' matches, so we do have to apologise. We did miss last week for a number of different reasons, mostly too much cricket going on. So we didn't really have an awful lot of time. But we've got 2 weeks' matches to catch back up on, and obviously a preview of this coming week's matches. So we're going to start off with some news, as we always do. And we're going to start off with a thanks. One of our sponsors, the Brig and Barrel, micro pub in Bamber Bridge, recently reopened as of last Sunday, I believe, Dave.
I think so.
And they have very kindly sponsored the 2020 season of the Wantleydale Fantasy League. They will be providing a selection of beers for the winner. And just to give you a bit of an overview on our Fantasy League, it's something that we started 2 years ago now. And it is a fantasy league purely for the fun of it originally, which is a selection of Wantleydale players across the 3 teams. You choose a team from those 3 sets of players. You must have a junior in there. You must have, I think it's 4 bowlers, 4 batters, 2 all-rounders and a keeper, Dave, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
And you get points accordingly. It fetches all the data in from Play Cricket, which is rather handy for assigning points to everybody. And so we're well underway with that. It's created a good buzz around the club. And Dave, you took part in it since day one. It's a nice little fun exercise, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I'm pleasantly surprised and pleased to be currently sat in second position on the leaderboard. I certainly didn't expect to be there with the slipless in settle team. But yeah, it just keeps things interesting, doesn't it? And well, as you say, a bit of fun keeps people interested and engaged with how each of the 3 teams are doing, and in particular your chosen players. And as we've seen on practice evenings, just a little bit of fun between the players, sort of talking about the points totals that they've got. Less so for those who picked up ducks over the weekend, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, as I said, from our point of view, we've some of us, let's say, which we'll come on to shortly, have performed better than others. So we'll wait and see on that one. But as you alluded to,
great of Brig and Barrel to sponsor it, and a prize at the end of it rather than just the glory of it is
absolutely
is a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, during the matches that we've been playing, I know it does get mentioned sometimes when somebody's doing well in the match and somebody's not doing so well. So it does brings a different element to match days for sure. You mentioned it before. You're currently sat in second place in the table. Currently top is first team skipper even Scott Newton, which I think even surprises him. And currently third is first team vice captain Harry Bates. So the first team are doing well at the moment, I've got to say. However, we have to touch on something, Dave, because there was a little bit of outrage, I think, on Saturday night after I realised that I haven't been putting the Man of the Match award onto the Fantasy League, which awards a certain amount, I can't remember at the top of my head, a certain amount of extra points to one individual player. On Saturday night, a certain Mohamed Nazif was rocking the top of the table. When the Man of the Match awards were added on, let's just say he had a bit of a fall from grace. He went down from 1st to 5th, which didn't go down well, Dave, did it? He wasn't a happy bunny.
No, but rules are rules, and points are there to be awarded, so that should have been taken into account. So as one of the beneficiaries of that, I can't be too disappointed or sympathetic.
No, and as I say, I think you're quite right. Rules are rules. We had the done thing had to be done. We had to award those Man of the Match awards, and
if I'd suffered from it as Nazad, I'm sure I'd have been outraged as he was.
We've done it the right way, Dave. So anyway, that's where we're at the moment. As Dave said, big thanks to Brig and Barrel. That's superb that they've offered to extend their sponsorship to supporting this as well. And yeah, it's going down well. Just from the top point scorers at the moment, as again will become clear when we discuss the games that have been going on. Number one is Zaz Waliyat, bowling superbly at the moment, so it's no surprise to see him at the top of the point scorers for the Fantasy League. Abdullah Cadbury is close behind. Abdullah, spinning all rounder, has been in the wickets recently as well. So and had a couple of spells with the bat. And then third place currently is Harry Bates. Again, been in the wickets himself. So it's mostly the wicket takers and not the run scorers at the moment that seem to be getting all the points. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunity for that to change over the coming weeks or so. So yeah, good start to the Fantasy League. And again, thanks very much to Brig and Barrel to support that. Off the back of that, something else that we've instigated this year is a performance of the month. We discussed this again amongst many things during lockdown, Dave, and at the start of the year there was a few ideas touted around, and this was one of them, performance of the month, and it's given us the opportunity to do it. So yeah, we're underway for July, and yeah, just I'll go through the nominees, and if you want to give your impression of you can give your impression of one of them because you saw one of them. The nominees were Ikram Palajwala, 42 versus Fylde in a second team game recently. You were watching that one. I believe that was a good knock opening.
Yeah, definitely. He doesn't open very often, and he has mentioned to you on a number of occasions that he wants that extra responsibility to open the innings. And normally when he comes in, it is almost a shot a minute, but this time it was a very sensible, very calculated innings. There were some really clean hits in there as well, going to the boundaries for 4s and 6s. But it was all. What impressed me was the rotation of the strike with Dom, who he was opening with, and then the other batsman in the order. And it was just a really good knock, and it was the absolute cornerstone of our innings against Fylde. And on a wicket which was very difficult to bat on, and it was very green, and it was doing a lot. It was a really impressive innings. So yeah, completely should be on there on the shortlist.
Excellent. The other three nominees are all from the first team game after the rained off game, the first team game that was played. Naz himself, 46, opening against New Longton. Very much a Naz-esque innings, ground it out over around about, I want to say about 30 overs. It might not have been that many, it might have been a little bit less than that, but it was a really well constructed and a very much of an anchor opening, probably the opposite to Ikram, to be fair. A very Naz-like innings of 46.
I mean, sometimes you just need that, don't you? You know, there will be certain innings where you just need somebody just to sit at one end and just rotate the strike with singles. I mean, I could say for me, you know, Naz's strike rate there is T20s for me, but yeah, sometimes an innings will just call for that, somebody that everybody else can just bat around. Yeah. And, you know, I'm sure at the start of the innings he'd have taken a score of 46, as would many people. So, yeah, really impressed, really mature, sensible knock, exactly the job that he needed to do in that situation.
Well, you mentioned there in terms of that allowing other players to play around him, and nomination number 3 was Mac Morris playing his first game back for the club after returning from Garstang. And Mac isn't one to grind an innings out by any stretch of the imagination. Mac came in, and it wasn't a real bludgeoning innings. He really did pick his shots, but when he picked his shots, my word, did he hit some great shots. And Mac got 41. Yeah, I mean, the timing of the ball from Mac is just amazing sometimes. There was one particular shot, he just advanced, not massively down the track, but he's a tall lad, so a couple of steps down the track and just nailed a straight drive along the floor, and it went like an absolute missile.
And on a ground like New Longton, the sheltered accommodation will have been in real danger.
Well, this went towards the pavilion, and there was a few guys socially distancing, enjoying a pint outside, and yeah, they had to scatter a little bit.
Became socially more distant.
Exactly, I imagine, yeah. He made sure they were. So yeah, cracking knock of 41 for Mac, and exactly again, like we said, Naz was that rock to start off with, and Mac was that acceleration, and yeah, really outstanding knock from Mac. And the last of the 4 nominations was Harry Bates, 4 for 11 in that New Longton match, and Harry last year in his first year with us, I think struggled a little bit with his leg spin. He hadn't played regularly for a while, and he struggled to find his line and length a little bit. But he came to a lot of winter nets and worked hard on his bowling and was looking good. But it's always how you then take that into a match situation. And I've got to say, I thought Harry bowled. I was sat slip for most of Harry's bowling, and he just bowled a superb length more than anything else. His line was pretty good, but his length was superb. He never let the batsman. In fact, there was one batsman in particular who was constantly coming down the wicket to him to try and mess with that length. And Harry didn't panic. He stuck to it, and he got his rewards. He sort of mopped up the tail a little bit, as well as Gareth coming on the other end. But Harry certainly, with his height, with his leg spin, proved really difficult. He eventually got the guy who kept coming down the wicket, throwing it down the leg side for a leg side stumping. He claims he meant it. I'm not so sure. But
we leg spinners claim them leg side.
Oh, you'll claim anything like a half tracker that's caught at mid wicket. I know that, Dave.
Correct. That's the change up ball. That.
But yeah, it was a superb spell of bowling from Harry, especially in his first game up. So those were the 4 nominations. We put them to Twitter, I think last week now, and today we can announce the winner. However, before we do that, what we need to say is, as with Brig and Barrel sponsoring the Fantasy League, we are looking for a sponsor of Performance of the Month. Ideally, somebody to offer a prize on a monthly basis, whatever that may be. And if you think you know somebody who could sponsor Performance of the Month, obviously this season, should I say, we'll only be having 3 awards, but we will be looking at doing it in future seasons. So if you do know somebody who might be able to sponsor the Performance of the Month with a prize on a monthly basis, by all means get in touch with us and let us know what they can do. So the winner of the July Watley Dales Performance of the Month is
huge drum roll.
Harry Bates, with a massive 81% of the vote. In fact, I think Mac got 0, which is a bit unfortunate for Mac when you first came back. But I think Ikram and Naz got 9% each, something like that, or just over 9%, and Harry was 81 point something percent, I think. So it was a landslide victory for Harry, well deserved. As I say, I watched it up close, so it was a well-deserved win, and Harry is your inaugural Watley Dale Performance of the Month winner for July. So well done, Batesy. Excellent stuff.
Bravo.
So that's the news. We're now going to move on to reviews of the matches, and I say we've got 2 weeks worth, so we're going to whiz through these quite quickly and not go too in depth with them. We're going to start off with the first team, and the second week of the season, the first one rained off, but they were away at New Longton. And we had a few changes, Dave. We had not massive availability issues, but a couple of key changes. And so there was a couple of changes to what we would have seen as a first choice first. Myself stepping up to bolster the batting. I say bolster, help it out a little bit. Alex Cuffin came back from his hiatus wanting to play rugby league, and unfortunately he can't do that at the moment. So Cuff came back into the first, and Mac, as we said, came back. Mac's availability is going to be sporadic at best, so Mac helped out filling in, and it was you know New Longton, Dave. It's a relatively small ground, usually a pretty good setup in terms of pitch, and it's always a nice place to go first up, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we spoke last time, we were saying about how it's one of our favourite grounds, that the facilities and things like that. And it normally is, it's a nice place to play cricket. It is quite small and it feels quite sort of, you can sort of hear there's normally a fair number of people watching, and it normally makes for a good atmosphere. And the pitch is normally a good one to play on, fair to both batter and bowler. So yeah, I mean, it was certainly one of the better grounds that they'll play at this year for sure.
So into the game itself, Dave, and Captain Scott Newton lost the toss and was asked to bat, which, given the weather they'd had, was a little bit not unsurprising, really. But there was a little bit of a team talk just before the start of the game, and some of the senior members got involved, and I've got to say it was a very sensible chat. And the batters were basically asked to bat the 40 overs, and let's see what score we come out with at the other end. And a target of about 120 as a defendable total was set. And I've got to say, the batters performed superbly. We ended up with 141 for 4. And Naz 46 was the anchor of the innings. I think we discussed it earlier on in terms of the performance being one of the better ones for the past month or so. And that then allowed the likes of Mac coming in behind him, 41 quickly. And you've got to say, on a, what we've described as early season wickets, a total of 141 for 4 off 40 overs is what you would call a defendable total, really.
Absolutely, I think you've got to be happy with that. And then when you add in the context of limited availability to practice and get time in the middle batting, I think you'd have to be happy with a score of 140 on the board. It's, as you say, certainly something defendable, and it means that your bowlers have got some margin to play with in terms of looking for wickets in the second half of the game.
Absolutely. There was a little cameo from Gareth Winstanley at the end. I think 15 not out, including about 12, 13 off 1 over. And Matt Simmons came in and played his part with Gareth as well, pushing the score along towards the end of the innings. So all in all, a reasonable first innings total for the first match the first actually had to play. And with the ball, Eastham and Aitzaz opened up and set a really tight, nagging line and length, and never let the new Longton batters get away with anything, really. So yeah, it was a really good start from them. And then, as we discussed earlier, in terms of winner of performance of the month, Harry Bates came on, and him and Gareth took that platform and allowed them to then really push the new Longton batters, who at that stage were obviously looking to get on with the total. So yeah, it was, I don't want to say a perfect performance, but because there was a few drop catches as well, but certainly in the basis of how the first team went about addressing the game, I think it was an absolutely superb first performance, really.
Yeah, certainly for the first proper game of the season, if you will. You couldn't really ask for too much more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we go on to the second first team game, if that makes sense, this last weekend, and yeah, another terrific performance against the Leyland third team, who, personally speaking, I thought would be an even match for our first team, and but they absolutely demolished them. We bowled them out for, I think, 31-32. Main destroyers again. Aitzaz opening up and getting a fifer. And Matt Eastham, who didn't open up this time, came on first change because Ryan Wells was back. But Eastham got fourfer, and Eastham and Aitzaz seemed to have really hit the ground running, and to bowl them out for that was a magnificent achievement.
Yeah, it just looks a really good bowling lineup in the first team this year. We have 4 bowlers who could argue on rotation could be opening the bowling themselves, and there's just no let up in that quality seam bowling options that the first team have this year. Normally you see quite a few teams who have 1 or 2 really standout bowlers who will open the bowling, and then you end up with some what you could describe as filler-ins.
Yeah.
Sort of later on in the innings, just getting through a few overs. But it doesn't feel like the first team have that this year. 4 out-and-out quality pace bowlers. You have Harry with his leg spin, you have Gareth with his off spin, a couple of other players in the team, as we said, can bowl a couple of overs if needed. There's just all sorts of options available this year, and it just looks really exciting from a bowling perspective. There's going to be a lot of competition, I'm sure, in leading wicket taker standings this year.
Absolutely, and to echo what you say, the fact that Gareth and Harry didn't even get to have a bowl on Saturday, that says a lot about that 4-seam attack that they've got in that first team. So yeah, it was an outstanding performance, and we were getting updates at the second team. We couldn't quite believe what we were hearing. 20 odd for 6, for 8, and then 30 odd, 32 all out was just incredible. So no, superb performance. And then it was easily knocked off for 1 wicket. Unfortunately, Scott got out, but Naz again just anchoring the short run chase, and yeah, absolutely superb victory for the first. And that's
and
2
an
for
early
2.
Finish as well.
And an early finish as well, as we all like anyway. But yeah, 2 for 2 for the first, and they're sitting top of their table. So well done to the first. We'll move on to the seconds now. And our match that we're going to touch on first 2 weeks ago was when I was in the first at New Longton, but you skippered the team against Fylde. Friendly, same format, but a friendly game against Fylde. And again, reasonable run out. Not the result we wanted, but a reasonable run out.
Yeah, definitely. Given that we had a free week and our first weekend match was rained off, we had to treat it as a second team warm-up match, pre-season friendly, if you will. So taking it as an opportunity to make sure people got time out in the middle batting, getting back to some kind of form, and giving people a good run out and some overs under the spell bowling essentially. I think it was a tricky wicket to bat on. We lost the toss and Fylde invited us to bat first. The wicket was quite green. It was doing quite a bit. So again, we were thinking a score in the region of 110, 120 would have been reasonable in the circumstances, and we did get there eventually. So I mean, we talked about Ikram's contribution earlier on, and that really was the foundation of our total. It was quite a difficult track to bat on, as I say. I couldn't really fault any of the effort put in. And then in the second innings, we were in with half a chance of pulling off a victory when we had them. I think it was 20 or 30 for two. But then their sort of middle order really fired and put on at least a 100 partnership, I think. And then we ended up with a slightly curious sight when victory was in sight of the two batsmen arguing between themselves, and at one point I think refusing to run because both were just really keen to make sure that they both brought up the 50s before the run chase was complete. So that was a slightly odd way to end the game. But the important thing was people got time practicing, in preparation for the actual competitive games, which we had played and we still have to come. So, job done in that respect. But obviously, we would have liked to have won if possible.
Well, as you touched on there was some because we two or three of us had gone up into the first team. There was two or three third teamers in as well. So, like you said, to get that experience in the middle was vital for all parties. So no, you're right. It was job done. That brought us on to, again, our first competitive game, if you like, away at Longridge this last Saturday, and we had a particularly strong side out, but had also been given the heads up that Longridge Force were particularly strong, so we were imagining it was going to be a hard game. I lost the toss, unsurprisingly, as per for me. But they chose to bat, which we thought was a little bit of a strange one, given the overhead conditions. It had been damp in the morning. We felt, bowling first was certainly what we would have done if we'd have won the toss anyway. And we just performed really, really well in the field. And I think just to hark on about what I said on at half time, Dave. I mean, we got Longridge 89 for 9 after 40 overs, and not just the total being, good to keep them down to 89, but we got pretty much everybody who could bowl, had a bowl, and performed well. Nobody went for big runs. Nobody bowled badly. Everybody bowled consistently. So again, as you said about the Fylde game, even this was our first competitive game, mission accomplished. Everybody got an opportunity, and we got them 89 for 9, not all out, but again, a total that we felt really, really comfortable with. So, again, I don't want to say perfect, but it was nigh on it, really, wasn't it? It was a good first half.
Yeah, I think if you're walking off the field at the interval, having restricted the opposition to under 100 in their 40 overs, you have to be delighted with that. I don't think anybody went for a lot of runs, as you say. The ground fielding was really good. There were a couple of tough drop catches, if I'm being generous to one of your efforts, Neil. We took most of our chances, if not all of them. It wasn't quite the perfect performance, but I don't see how you couldn't be happy with that at an interval. And we went into the second half of the innings, the second half of the match, sorry. full of confidence with how it had gone, and yeah, it was a good performance with the ball.
Performance with the bat wasn't so great. Yes, the pitch did deteriorate, which some of their fielders commented on, in terms of that's why you don't bat second at Longridge, but it didn't deteriorate enough to take account for some of the poor shots we played and some of the lack of concentration from some batters, myself included. And unfortunately, we were bowled out for 56. And yeah, we really didn't do ourselves justice chasing down a total of 89, which should have been well within us for the team we had out.
I think so, and even it was a very poor batting performance, but yet we still ended up, less than 40 runs adrift, which just shows that it just needed a couple of those people who, didn't perform at the top of the order. It just needed a couple of those just to have played slightly better, and we may well have knocked that off. We weren't a million miles away because we were chasing such a low total. Yeah, it just wasn't good enough, really. We should have been a bit nearer chasing 89, really. It certainly wasn't a 56 all-out wicket by the end of the game. Just one of those days, I think, unfortunately.
Absolutely, yeah. You put it down to experience, move on, and especially at these times, you've got a game under your belts. Everybody's had a fair crack, so we move on to this week coming. Well, that's the second team matches. We're going to move on to the third team matches, and the first one 2 weeks ago was at Maudsley. We know that Maudsley generally turn out, a reasonably more senior team than some clubs because their junior section maybe isn't as much similar to ourselves, isn't possibly as strong as others. So we knew it'd be a tough match. We had the curious sight I went to watch of Hamza Mahmood turning up, who was opening the bowling, turned up about 5 minutes beforehand, jumped out of his car. He had new boots. So he threw them at me, sat on the side, and said, "Neil, would you mind tightening the spikes upon them? Because all the spikes are loose," as sometimes you get with new boots. So I helping him tighten them up with this stud tightener, and anyway, threw these new spikes on, ran on the field, went to the top end at Maudsley, ran in, first ball, bowled a guy. It was just the most surreal moment you've ever seen on a cricket pitch, and then
it's classic village cricket.
Oh,
isn't
classic
it?
village. Absolutely couldn't have been any more village if he tried, except for the fact that the ball was an absolute superb ball, which certainly wasn't village. But yeah, so that started an opening spell between Hamza and Carl Johnson, where they both got 3 wickets apiece, and we reduced Maudsley to 22 for 6, which was terrific. It was absolutely superb bowling from the pair of them. Carl got away with a little grubber on one of them, but the other couple of his wickets were decent, and Hamza was bowling superbly. So yeah, unfortunately, they then had 2 better players that came in further down the order, both of which got 50s and got them up to a very, very competitive total of 189. That was mainly due to, again, as we've discussed, people getting a go, and Peatingham captain shared the responsibility with the ball around. And unfortunately, not everybody was as strong as CJ and Hamza, and yeah, they got up to as we well know, and we've just been talking about, 189 comparison with some of the totals out there was a very, very defendable total, really, Dave. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. We talked about it with the third team in terms of what that team's trying to achieve, and again, it's more about development and opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one to put down to experience, whereas we just talked about the second team game at Longridge and where we were able to not quite bowl them out, but get very close to doing so and restricting them to that low total. And we walked off the field full of confidence. We felt we had momentum with us.
Yeah.
Whereas you compared that to the third team, where we've got young lads trying to get experience in playing senior cricket, and others returning back to the game after time away. You get a good way along that road of getting a team 22 for 6. I think then can't quite just finish the job, and then they've got a lot longer in the field than they might have expected, with a team piling on the runs, and then that momentum, that confidence you've built up in that innings is just draining away, and then you sort of you come off what, 160 runs later.
Yeah.
You've not bowled them out, perhaps, feeling, we've let this one slip a little bit. It's a massive difference in the way a team's feeling. And unfortunately, it probably contributed to the second half of the game.
Yeah, again, it seems to be a bit of a pattern for Dale performances this season so far. Batting wise, never really happened for the thirds. Slumped to, I think it was 60 odd all out. And out of that 60 odd, second team wicketkeeper Andy Shorrock, who dropped down because he wasn't available on the Saturday, got 27 of those. And I've got to say, Andy batted superbly well. Really took his opportunity to have time in the middle, and which he hasn't really had much in the second team over the last couple of years. And they had a bowler who I think unfortunately doesn't play much on Saturday, so he plays more on a Sunday. But a guy called Louis Rothwell, who bowled superbly and got, I think, 6 wickets. And some of our mid to lower order couldn't get anywhere near him. So it was good bowling. It really wasn't necessarily throwing away of wickets, but like you say, 60 odd all out, chasing 189 was a bit of a disappointment. But that brings us on to this weekend just gone, and we go from a disappointment to a massive achievement. I am going to call it an achievement for the third team, Dave. They were playing Croston, and Croston, very much a team that are trying to bring juniors through in that Sunday team under the stewardship of Lee Childs, ex-Premier level player for Croston, and it was an absolute thriller.
Hollywood couldn't have scripted
cricket.
It better.
Hollywood, we call it. We said village cricket. This was Hollywood cricket. Absolutely well put. Croston batted first, and they got 91. And it was largely down to a superb bowling performance from 2 bowlers. Young Matt Berry opened up and got 3 wickets. I wasn't down at that point. I was getting updates, and just told that Matt was bowling superbly and got 3 very quickly. Came back on later on in the innings and got his 4th. And then also Abdullah Kadva, who played on Saturday for us in the seconds and was getting extra game in. He got 3 wickets with his spin. He bowled very well on Saturday, got a couple of wickets, and then followed that up with 3 on Sunday. And it was just a really, really good fielding performance. And 91, as opposed to 189 the previous week,
exactly,
while still we were a little bit wary about our batting performances previously. It was still very much more in our control from that point of view. And in time,
certainly gave them a chance, as you say, based on previous weeks.
Yes, absolutely.
And confidence levels.
Yeah. So we didn't know how the second innings was going to go, but it swung both ways on numerous occasions. Croston got off to a good start, got a few wickets, and then we had the 2 Petes came together, Captain Pete Ingham and Pete Shorthouse playing his first game, and the 2 Petes really dug in and built a platform to move the innings forward, didn't they?
Yeah, they certainly did. They just saw out some balls to begin with, just trying to play solidly, picking up singles where they could. And then as that time in the middle increased and the confidence built, we started seeing boundaries and more expansive shots, and dare I say, on the sidelines, we almost started to feel a little comfortable in the run chase. That it was going our way nicely, and they'd see us to victory.
This brings us to the back end of the innings, where I think we were about 5 down.
I think it was about 8 or 9 to win, 5 wickets to stand.
And then we lost a couple of quick wickets and got to within, I think, 2 to win, was it? And then lost another couple of quick wickets, which brought in numbers 10 and 11, young Matt Berry again after his bowling performance, and Evan Benyon, 14-year-old Evan. And these 2 guys aren't, at the minute, exuberant with their ability with the bat, shall we say. Both very accomplished young bowlers, but feel like they need that little bit of confidence boost with their batting. And anyway, they got a few words of encouragement as they went out, and that was good to see from some of the senior players who were down to watch as well. And they scrambled a bye to get the scores level, and then that brought Evan on to strike for the first ball of the next over. And And I've got to say, Dave, I think everybody's heart was in the mouth at this point. But Evan did exactly what we've been talking to him about his batting over recent weeks. He's getting his front foot to the ball, hit straight through the line of the ball, and managed to find a gap at cover point and pushed it through for a single. And the game was won. And just the delight on not just the young lads, but also everybody in the team had they had 2 tough games before this. It was just a delight to see how happy they were with getting away with that win.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so good to see how pleased everybody was down there after, it was a really close game, a really hard fought game by both sides, played in a good spirit. And as you said, an achievement in that, the first ever third team victory chalked up on the board. It was just, a really good afternoon to be down watching a good game of cricket. And it was just such a good occasion to be involved in, and a pleasure to see everybody enjoying it.
Absolutely, Dave. I mean, if they hadn't have come off with that victory, I'm not sure what the mindset would have been, but they did, and hopefully that'll see the third team strong going forward. So that takes us from the third team into the T20 team. Played another friendly against Standish, and got a win this time. Posted about 100, batting first. Very much different team. Had a few new faces. Kurt Hilton back, and he was the mainstay with 32 with the bat. And then bowling wise, again, Easter and Aitzaz doing the damage, 3 wickets apiece. In what was, 2 young juniors in there, a much more mixed team than the first game we played. So again, more positivity, more game time for people. And that was really good to see. So that's just a quick one just to throw in after the weekend side. So well done to those. And we are looking for more T20 midweek friendlies if anybody wants to approach us on those. We've got a couple of irons in the fire, but if anybody else wants to have any T20 midweek friendlies, we're here to do that. Here's another section that we're trialling on the Up the Dale podcast, and it's Ask the Players. This week, what do you miss about cricket tees?
Well, the thing I miss most about the cricket tees is plain ham sandwiches, because I'm a fussy bugger.
What do I miss from tees? Unfortunately, this season we don't get any tees. That's what I miss.
So what do I miss about cricket tees? Well, having been captain for a couple of seasons at my previous club, I was always too busy running around to be able to have any tees. There was never anything left when it came round to me to go and get my tees. But more importantly, I'm diabetic, and I can't have anything sweet or sugary or chocolatey or anything like that. So no, not a lot I miss.
Okay, so what do I miss about teas? Probably a big tuna sandwich and a proper homemade cake. The only thing is you can only eat if you've batted first and then hide in the field with a big gut.
So we're just going to move on now to previewing this weekend's games, and we'll start with the first, Dave, who are away at Exton. First time for any of our clubs playing at Exton, and they'll be playing against an old face. Sweeney, who used to play for us, Anthony Sweeney, is in the Exton second team this weekend. And it's good facilities, good setup at Exton. So, and the first have got a ridiculously strong side out again. Even had to drop a couple down into the seconds this week. And big things. They are top of the table. If a win here probably guarantees them through as first in the table, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. A very important game for them this week, and coming up against an old friend in Mr. Sweeney. I'm sure they'll want to be putting in a good performance, just as Sweeney will want to do likewise. Bit of an unknown quantity, as you say, Exton, given we haven't come across them before. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes against a new club, new players, and like you said, it's an important one in terms of hopefully it seals a place into the next group stage, and some more games later on in the season. So it'll be an interesting test for the first team this week.
Absolutely, and hopefully they get a bit more game time than they did last week. It's certainly with the bat anyway. Seconds, we are at home to our local rivals Horton. The big Dale Horton rivalry raises its head again. We're playing Horton seconds. We too have therefore got a very strong side out because of the first having a strong side out. So Hopefully we'll have a better performance with the bat. We've got a couple of returning players in Anis Vahalawala and Imran Hussain playing his first game on a weekend for us, and Sam Bolton dropping down from the first. And so it should be a good game, should be competitive, and we've got a strong side out.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have many weeks like this where we have a lot of good selection headaches, if you will, with lots of good availability. Second team, almost the flip side of the first team. It's a big game for the second team in that realistically a win's needed if we want to finish in the top two. Add to that, always the interest in getting one over a near neighbour. It should be an interesting game, and looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do need to win probably both our last two matches if we're going to finish in the top two. So we've got Horton this week and Whittle the week after again at home. So yeah, big push needed for the seconds, and hopefully we'll see an improvement with the batting anyway. So, and then lastly, the third team should I say, on Sunday, travelling away to Rufford. Lovely little ground. I was there myself this week. And Rufford again, very similarly, to push a lot of junior players, and they only have one Saturday team, so their team on a Sunday is very much their outlet for development. So again, the third team this week again is benefiting from an over availability in the second team. So there's a lot of players dropped down to play on Sunday, and again, hopefully that'll give more development time and more ability for people to have a bat and a ball, hopefully. It should be again another good test for the third team.
It will be, as you say, lots of good juniors at Rufford. Beautiful ground to play at, and the third team are going in with the confidence of being, one game unbeaten. So it'll be a good challenge for them, as you say, against a team who are trying to play in the same way that we are in giving young players chances and opportunities to develop. So it'll be a good test of their skills and whether they can step up and go another game unbeaten. Hopefully I'll get down there myself to watch on the Sunday and see how they go. But yeah, it's just, as you say, more time out in the middle and more chances to score runs and take wickets and build towards next year and a full season.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And fingers crossed. It's their weather's set fair, so we should have an excellent weekend of cricket to look forward to and report on next week. So we're just going to wrap things up. We'll just reiterate anybody out there that knows anybody that can sponsor our performance of the month. By all means, get in touch with us. And any clubs wanting midweek T20 friendlies, again, get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to look into that. But that's another wrap up of recent results and upcoming games from Whartley-Dale. Thanks very much for watching. Dave, thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, cheers, Neil. Thanks, everyone.
And we'll be back next week with more information and more news and hopefully more outstanding results. So it's goodbye from him. And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.